Okay, it is 12:15. I call this meeting of the Northeast Independent School Health Advisory Council to order. This meeting is in compliance with Section 28.004 of the Texas Education Code, an applicable board policy. The council's meeting today will address only the topics on the agenda. No other topics will be discussed during the meeting. SHAC meetings are open to the public. Guests wishing to address the SHAC may do so by emailing the council at shac@neisd.net. Any person that causes disruption during the meeting will be asked to leave. Thank you for your cooperation. Thank you, and with that said, the first matter on today's agenda is...
Well, we're going to welcome our new board members. The distinguished lady to my left, your right, is Kelly LaPesca, and so she and I are co-chairs starting this year for the SHAC, and my name is Sean Metcalf, and so we're honored to have you all here today. We've got a lot of familiar faces that we've seen here over the years, but there's also a lot of new faces in here as well. So if you are a new member to the SHAC, we want to say welcome. Thank you for signing on. We won't have you raise your hands, you know who you are, but welcome to SHAC. And if this truly is your first time being a part of this, man, we're so excited. Every year we've got over half of the SHAC is actually required to be parent volunteers. So all of you that are joining us as parent volunteers, thank you for taking time out of your day. You're trying to raise kids, you're trying to do jobs and everything else, and also serving our community. So let this thundering applause just be a sign of our welcome and thanks to you. So we had our new members meeting yesterday, and so we both videoed and recorded that, and that has also been sent out on a link to any of you that were unable to make that as well. So we kind of covered all the things that we do here at SHAC and what your role as a parent volunteer will look like. So be looking for that in your inbox and be going through that, and be sure you get a chance to view that and listen to that recording so you'll know exactly what will be expected and what you will experience here at each of our SHAC meetings. And so with that, I turn it back over to Ms. Kelly.
You've already had a chance to review the minutes from the May meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Debbie Freno. Do I have a second? Rachel. Okay. All those. Do I have any discussion? Or no, that's a PTA thing. all those in favor say aye. Raise your hand. And all those opposed say nay. Okay, the motion has been approved. So with that, we would like to introduce Emma Kelly, the Assistant Director for Health Services, to give a COVID update.
Thank you. Oh, that's very nice of y'all. So my name is Emma Kelly. For those of you who are new and who I haven't met, I'm the Assistant Director of Health Services for NEISD. Can we talk again? So here I am again, talking to you about COVID again. Over the summer, we really saw this dramatic decrease in cases, and it really seemed like maybe we weren't going to be talking about this again this school year. But then cases started to rise, and other warning indicators were trending in a less positive direction. One difference was that it wasn't a gradual increase that we were seeing, but a much steeper jump up in the number of cases and the warning indicators. So that's how we're all here again having this conversation. I do have some information to share, but I kind of want to try to move through it a little bit quickly because I don't want to assume that I know what you all are wanting to find out about. So I'd like to move through the information and then have a chance for any of the SHAC members to ask questions. We can have discussions about things. That way I make sure we're talking about what is really important to you all. So in looking back, we can talk a little bit about last school year. We began a COVID testing program offering rapid tests to employees and students. Over 2,000 people were tested. The average positivity rate was about 10%, and the number of tests that we were performing peaked in January. At that time, the most people that we tested was about little less than 300. And in a little while, I'll talk to y'all about a new testing program that we have and a new testing site out at the sports park. So Thank you very much, everyone who has given up all of their space for us to use. And they're testing about 500 people a week. So it's a big increase in the number of people being tested. We also started a COVID vaccine program. We started off scheduling employees for vaccine appointments with University Health. Then we became an approved vaccine provider and administered Moderna vaccine to employees and students who are 18 or older who were interested in that. And I think that I'd be missing an opportunity if I didn't talk just a little bit about the impact that the school nurses had on the success of last school year. They conducted so much contact tracing and just really followed up with so many families and employees, providing them with guidance and information so that they could make the best decisions for them and their children. They really helped coordinate campus mitigation. They really kind of were the backbone on the campuses to make sure all of the different mitigation processes were working together and running smoothly. So where are we now? We saw, like I said, we saw some really nice, promising summer lows in terms of cases in the different factors. And then we did see that rise. Now, where we are right now is about a 7.1% positivity rate. That's from last Tuesday, so it will be updated this evening. But it has been dropping. The peak was a 21% positivity rate that was a little less than a month ago, so it has been going down in recent weeks. The case rate per 100,000 also has been coming down a little bit. So again, we saw that really steep jump up, and now we're seeing a gradual slope downward, which is nice. In terms of vaccination in the community, we really do have fairly high levels of community vaccination. About 87% of the eligible population, 12 and older, has received at least one dose of the COVID vaccine. So although the recommendation is for people to receive both doses if they're doing a 2-dose series, even one dose does offer some protection, so that's really a good number for our community. The highest vaccinated groups are those 65 and older. The lowest vaccinated groups are 20 to 39-year-olds, so younger adults. And of course, children 12 and under 12 are not yet approved for vaccine. There are various factors that impact the decisions that school districts make. We've all been privy to a lot of these in the news and just being talked about recently. Various governor's executive orders that have kind of changed from last school year to this school year. And then in addition to that, different TEA guidelines on quarantine and offering remote instruction. So there is a lot that goes into all of the different decisions that are made in regard to schools. So when we look at the different COVID scenarios, when someone has tested positive, this really is the situation that has remained the most constant. There's been the least amount of change with the recommendations in this scenario. So if someone tests positive, they stay home and isolate for 10 days, either from when they first started having symptoms or from when their test was performed if they haven't ever had any symptoms. Health Services reports all cases to Metropolitan Health District and also to Department of State Health Services. One change this year is that instead of sending a letter to the whole campus when someone tests positive, now it's more specific. So parents will receive a letter if someone in one of their child's classes tests positive, whether that's an employee or a student. That way people just have a little bit more specific information. If someone has had close contact with someone diagnosed with COVID, we provide recommendations. We do recommend and strongly encourage the CDC recommendations for close contact, which are to quarantine. But ultimately, this year it's up to parents to make the decision on what's the best thing for their child and their particular situation. This year, Health Services is not conducting contact tracing, and I can talk a little bit about that. Because it does, I know for parents that can really leave a lot of questions unanswered. They may receive a letter but not know how much contact did my child really have with the person who's tested positive? Last school year, on average, to contact trace a case, it took about 2 to 4 hours. And when you look at the number of cases that we had in the schools last year, this year we're at a much higher number. So last year our peak was 186 student cases, and for this school year it's 462 is the peak week of student cases. So that's quite a big jump in the number of cases and just the time that it would take to trace those cases. Now, it's not a situation where we're just saying, oh, we don't have the time or we don't want to spend the time to do this. When you're looking at an environment where everyone is wearing a mask, then contact tracing is a little bit easier. When there's a situation where not everyone is masked, it becomes really quite a bit more complicated. Instead of asking a teacher how many students in your class or who in your class may struggle to wear a mask consistently, you're then asking a teacher for each and every student, when did they have their mask on? When did they take their mask off? How long was it for? Who were they around during those times? So really, it would be so close to an impossibility for a teacher to really keep track of all of that, who's pulling their mask up at what time, who's sitting next to them, that it really does make contact tracing in that type of environment nearly impossible. But like I said, we do provide recommendations to parents and employees so that they can make the best decision for themselves and their children. And in terms of people experiencing symptoms, it's very similar to last school year. The nurses conduct an assessment to determine if a student may have a contagious illness. Now that we're back with more students in school, we're coming right into flu season, definitely cold season. People are experiencing illnesses other than COVID-19. COVID is still around, but so is everything else. So we're not necessarily just looking at symptoms which may be related to COVID. We're just looking at whether or not someone may have a contagious illness. If someone is determined that they may have a contagious illness, they are sent home or they'll be staying home from school, and then we provide 4 different options for the student to return to school. And then parents have the ability to choose which of those options will work best for their situation. And I think just because this is the one situation that can sometimes be a little bit confusing about what are the options, how does someone get back to school, I just wanted to share these with you guys. So if someone's been out with symptoms, they need to be fever-free for 24 hours. Their symptoms need to have improved. And we do say improved. They don't have to have completely gone away. There are some symptoms that really linger, like a cough after an upper respiratory infection. And so we're not saying that your symptoms have to be completely gone, because that may take a very, very long time. And that doesn't necessarily indicate that someone still has a contagious illness. And then after those 2 things are met, there are 4 different options that will allow a student to return to school. Either 10 days will have passed since their symptoms began, they can get a note from a medical professional clearing them to return to school and providing an alternate diagnosis. They can get a PCR COVID test that has a negative result, or they can get a rapid COVID test that has a negative result. Now for the rapid tests, because those tests are much more reliable after someone's been experiencing symptoms for a few days, a rapid test needs to be performed no sooner than day 5 of symptoms to allow a student to return to school. So what are these school nurses up to now? They're busy. They have quite a bit going on. So rapid testing is being performed in the school clinics this year. And really that has kind of worked out to be a valuable resource for families. The availability of testing in the community just waxes and wanes. So sometimes it's very, very easy to get an appointment for a COVID test. There are other times where families can't get an appointment for several days. Being able to offer the testing in the clinic just kind of eases that for the families if they're interested in it. Testing is only being performed when parents are wanting it to be performed. We have to have written permission signed by the parent in hand before anyone can be tested. We are offering testing to students and employees who are experiencing symptoms or who have been in close contact. They are still providing guidance, information, and recommendations to families in the different COVID situations. Now, one thing is that this year we've kind of given back a lot of the decision making to families. And so they really are being called upon quite a bit to help make those decisions. Last year there were a lot of hard and fast rules in place that wasn't necessarily fun or what anyone generally likes, but it was pretty black and white. If this is the situation, this is what you do. And this year there is a lot more gray area where people are making the decision, and so there are a lot more questions about it. They're still working closely to kind of make sure all of the necessary things are completed when someone on a campus has tested positive. So we're still doing the deep cleaning of areas that were visited by anyone who tested positive, notification of families, of classmates, or anyone in a classroom with a person who tested positive. And then they're doing lots of data collection and reporting so that we can get all of the information to the required agencies in a timely manner. And then really a kind of swing back this year has been that we do have so many more students on campus than last school year. So really all of those pre-COVID, just regular school nurse tasks that kind of took a backseat a little bit last school year because there weren't as many students on campus are back in full swing. So many clinics are seeing over 100 students a day. They have their same number of scheduled procedures, treatments, medications. They are still conducting health screenings and doing student education, just all of the things that they always did before. But now we kind of have this lovely hybrid year where it's all of the regular tasks and then we're adding all of the COVID tasks on top of that. So in an effort to be able to accomplish some of these things, we're very, very excited that we have a COVID-19 team. Like I said, they're housed out at the sports park in the lovely pavilion where we usually were. But they really are working very hard every day. And the fact that that team is in place and is working so well together and getting so much done really allows the nurses to be able to follow up with parents and employees efficiently. So they're able to get back to people right away instead of having them wait, a couple days before the nurse is able to get back in touch with them. And then also they're able to test students and employees so that the campus nurse can actually provide care, medication, treatments to the students who are on campus and who are needing their services. So the COVID team is doing rapid testing for the same people, employees and students who are having symptoms or who have been in close contact. That's Monday through Friday, 9 to 4, school days only. And then they're providing follow-up and guidance for students and employees who have tested positive. And again, just being so helpful in all of that data collection and reporting. So there's a lot of different tasks being done by that team, but they're working really, really well together, getting a lot done. Even just in the short amount of time that they've been in place, they've really improved their processes and their efficiency. So it's really great to have them in place. And I asked Diane what she'd like me to share, and she said, just let them know we're looking forward to cooler temperatures. So those plastic gowns don't breathe, and it's a little toasty out there. So where are we headed? We will continue to partner with the health department, with Department of State Health Services. We'll continue to work with our medical advisory committee, which is a committee made up of community physicians, healthcare providers, different people who serve on different organizations throughout the city that really give us a big picture view of some of the processes we're undertaking and can provide quite a bit of guidance and feedback when we're looking at different plans we have in place. we'll continue to look at all of the data that we have and make adjustments to current plans. And, COVID is not brand new, but it almost feels like it this school year because it is such a different situation. The Delta variant kind of has thrown a little bit of a wrench in and changed things up a little bit, so we're responding to the differences that we're seeing this school year. We are working to provide clear information for parents and employees, so we're currently developing an FAQ page for parents. We know that, just like for our nurses, we send out so many updates and new information. We try to clarify processes or make them more efficient, but sometimes when you get all of that information in all the time, it's hard to remember what's the most recent thing that we've heard. So we know parents are in the exact same situation. So we're making just a website that will have just an FAQ so that you've heard what to do if your child wakes up with symptoms, but then when they really do wake up with symptoms, it kind of is a whole new ballgame. So just a place for parents to go to quickly get that information, to know that it's accurate and up to date so that they can make the best decision. And as always, like I said, these situations do change. I know that we've been kind of dealing with these different scenarios, but when it is happening to you or for employees, when it's happening on your campus, it kind of changes the way that you're looking at it. So bless you. We want to always be available as a department to talk situations over, to help people kind of figure out what the best thing to do in a particular situation is, offer any guidance that we have, or really reach out to find answers if there's something that we don't have yet. This whole last 19 months or however many months we're at, it has absolutely been a team effort. Everyone has been working so hard and so closely together and really trying to make the best decisions. So we just want to keep being able to contribute to that team in the best way that we can. And really, that is it for me, but I want to be able to answer any questions that anyone has, or if there's anything you'd like to discuss. Okay, it took 19 months, but we all get it. I'm like, this is lovely, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. We are putting the sign up back in because I know we had some guests that came in towards the end. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Rachel Naylor, and I am so excited to see all of you. I am going to kind of take you through a mix of presentations we normally do at the beginning of the year. I pulled some slides from one presentation, put them in another, so we will get that going. But before I do that, I really do want to, introduce two new staff members to my office, because I know that the SHAC knows that Melissa Menzel and Teresa Mahu decided they wanted to retire and go off into the sunset, and we have two new members who are totally mad at me for doing this. I can see their faces. Brandon Turner, raise your hand, Brandon, and Katie Steinhoff. So they will be joining our SHAC, just so that you know your PE health people you can reach out to as well. And then the last thing before I get started, I want to say this. If you get an opportunity to thank any of our school nurses, Emma Kelly, Delenn, Diane, please do. As those of us that are out at the sports park watching them every day melt out there and take care of what they do, they're simply amazing. So I would love for us to take a moment just to give them a big round of applause. Like, I don't complain about my job ever when they're around. Okay, so we're going to go through some things with the School Health Advisory Council. And I apologize to our new members because this is what you saw. A lot of it was probably yesterday. Okay, Britt, am I doing something wrong on the clicker?
Point it at me.
I am pointing at you. It's not working.
Okay, I'll click for you.
Okay, slide. Or do you want me to come over there? Sorry, we are learning how to do a boardroom type setup, and this is a little weird for us. Is it good? Okay. And for those of you that don't know, and I know I apologize, new members, but The School Health Advisory Council is required by law. It has been around, I'm going to say, since late 90s, early 2000 for school districts that they had to have them. Every year legislation goes through, and we will find out about that in just a minute, that kind of increases the role of what the SHAC is required to do. It is comprised of parents and district employees and nonprofit members. We have to have, by law, 50% of the SHAC has to be parents. So all of you new parents that joined us, thank you for helping us be compliant. We need you here. And as I shared with new members yesterday, we are so very grateful that you are here. And then you are appointed by the Board of Trustees. So last Monday night, we took the list and all of you got appointed by the board. It is an advisory council directly to the board, so it does kind of serve under them, I guess. Okay, slide. The areas of focus for SHAC are the areas that are up on the screen. These are more similar to the CDC, coordinated school health. In the state of Texas, coordinated school health really is only required for 4 things, and that is school nutrition services or nutrition, classroom health, physical education, and a parent component. But the CDC model is a little bit more vast, as you can see by up on the screen. And so that is what we follow in SHAC. We follow more of that model. It encompasses the state as well. And slide. Like I was saying, our SHAC design, we have 50 members as our maximum. There are 20 plus or minus K-SHAC members, and that changes every single year. That is our student voice. They do not count in our 50-member maximum. This year we have 25 K-SHAC members, and we graduated several off last year. There are 5 committees, which I will go through in just a minute. And then we have 4 SHAC meetings per year, and we're going to be usually meeting about every other month. Committee meetings will happen on the month that SHAC is not meeting for a full council, and some committees may not meet. If you don't have any business that you have to do, you're going to get to choose not to meet. And that's going to be a little bit different format for us. Also, those committee meetings will be by Zoom unless probably you need to do an in-person one. Let's say you have a certain presentation you need brought in or something to that effect. And then our K-SHAC, which I'm going to be honest, COVID affects us a little bit when it comes to this. Last year, they were all Zoom. This year, we are hoping to have them at the end of October in person. And then probably they will not come to a SHAC meeting this fall. If everything works out, we are hoping we might be able to get them in the spring. But if not, they for sure will have an evening meeting in the spring. And then these are our SHAC committees. Everything from the page you saw where our focuses go under these 4 committees, well, 5 committees. We have nutrition, safe and healthy schools, fitness and physical activity, classroom health and sex education, and kids school health advisory council. Committee, I always interchange that. Just so that you know, our safe and healthy schools is kind of a hodgepodge group. Anything that doesn't fit in the other ones goes to them. So that group is kind of got a lot underneath them. And then this is some pictures of Kids School Health Advisory. We call it a council, but it's really the committee. They're really a committee within the SHAC. And this was a really neat opportunity. They got to go to the botanical gardens, and I think it was one of their favorite days. If you have never had that opportunity, I will put a plug in for the San Antonio Botanical. Go there. They have classes that they will run at night and stuff, and you go, and the kids got to actually harvest their own food and then make recipes utilizing the food. They had a blast. And then again, the K-SHAC roles, it is one of the 5 committees under the SHAC umbrella. The students provide us input into recommendations and wellness goals that we have that are pertinent to students. And then they are comprised of middle and high school students. So we haven't dove into having elementary kiddos yet. Mainly because secondary, I feel more comfortable with them riding the bus over and doing all of that. And then they are also appointed by the Board of Trustees. And just so that you know, we are probably one of the largest SHACs, much less K-SHAC in the state of Texas. When we add K-SHAC in, we're pushing like 75 people, which is pretty amazing. So huge kudos to all of you as well as our K-SHAC kids who are always willing to step up. So that ends that part of the presentation. Does anybody have any questions with regards to the actual SHAC? And I do want to I did not say this, and we're going to go into the next presentation why there's some things that are a little different with SHAC. If you happen to have a question, any of our members, if you happen to have a question, if you will go to the podium closest to Britt, you're going to have to ask your question that way. I know that seems really weird, but you're getting ready to find out why, because I'm going to go through legislation, and some legislation changed. And that way you will be up to date, okay? So SHAC challenges, it is going to be a fun year for everyone. So we have a lot of things going on, and I want to make sure that everybody is very aware of those. Some of those things do not affect you as much as others, but we're still going to go through them just so you're up to date on legislation. Legalese. This is a slide I normally have in the presentation before now, but it fits here because we're getting ready to start going through the legislative pieces. But what you need to know is that statutes, which are federal and state law that are passed down, which is Texas Education Code, and the Texas Administrative Code, which is basically your State Board of Ed, the commissioner, they create rules that put those statutes in place. Those all transfer over to what is our legal and local policy in our school district. Legal cannot be changed. That comes down from the state. But local is how we as a school district, and our board will put us that as a policy, we'll put that, how we're going to handle that legal. And then we have administrative regulations. And administrative regulations are how we're also going to handle those. So I'm going to give you an example. When you start to see, and something that we have, our governance is BDF. So BDF legal is one, then BDF local, which we can change, and BDF-R, which is a regulation, that is our governance. So when you see an R, that means it's a regulation, and that is another step in how we're going to manage a policy. There are district guidelines as well, which P and Health Department has those as well as any other department. And it's not necessarily a policy level, but it is a guideline that we have in place. For example, heat guidelines, we have those for PE. If there's a heat issue or something like that, we have those in our guidelines, and every department has some sort of guidelines. And then I always say to everybody, there's the district way. And it's the one that, we've just always done it that way. It's not that it can't change, it's just, it's not really in writing anywhere, but it's just how we've done it. So what's the big deal about this next year? Well, let me kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. This past November, we had TEKs that were approved for PE and health, K through 12. And it's really on pre-K. We want everybody to know, even though full day pre-K is required to get PE, they do not have PE standards. Their standards actually fall under their pre-K standards. And then all of those, our curriculum has to be rewritten to meet those TEKs by the 22-23 school year. And that's August 22-23. And then textbook adoptions, we also have K-12 physical education and health textbooks that are coming up and before everybody. And if you want to know that these type of things don't usually happen, where you have both at the same time for two different subject areas for entire K through 12. So the PE and health department is a little stressed. You must go through that. We're going to have to go through the SHAC and the Board of Trustees on the textbooks, and any curriculum changes will also have to go through the SHAC. So we will be coming to you guys with stuff, and then we will also be going to the board with more stuff. There is an April purchase. So the deal with textbooks is this. The timeline is really set by the state. They will release to us which textbooks are approved and meet certain criteria. And then they tell us when we will have to purchase as well. So then our timeline is set within that, okay? And then legislative compliance. There are changes that have happened with SHAC as well as human sexuality and abstinence education that I want to make sure that you're aware of. And they went into place the first day of school this year. So I laughingly say this was me last spring, early spring, going, okay, we've got quite the big year coming up. But nobody needs to worry about this. We will all be fine. We can manage it. And then legislative compliance for SHAC. I'm going to run through this pretty quickly because we covered a lot of this in the spring with you, but things that did change. When we or if we open up human sexuality and abstinence education, there is a new process that will be put in place. That stuff has not come down yet, but it will go into place. The board will have to adopt a process. They do have to do a resolution now. We have to hold at least 2 public meetings, which our SHAC meetings are now open. So that would just go right in line with that. And then SHAC recommendation must be provided to the board in a public meeting. And then the board takes action by record vote at a public meeting. And then meetings. So this is a little bit where you guys are going, okay, we're in the boardroom and things are a little different on the meetings because of legislation. We have to post our agendas 72 hours in advance on the internet as well as at each of our campuses. We also, you have to have open meetings for if you're discussing human sexuality and abstinence education as a full SHAC. And then minutes must be put up on the web within 10 days. We will be putting them up, but we will put them in draft format because you guys will approve them at your next meeting. And then audio and or video recording must also accompany those minutes, which we will be doing that, which today our meeting is being audio and video recorded. And then parent of all enrolled students. I think almost anybody that's a parent in here, you got a human sexuality and abstinence education notification. It went out to all parents, whether they have a pre-K through 12 student. If they're enrolled in the school district, they got the notification. And it provides all of these things that had to be in that notification. I don't want to go through it tremendously, but there's a lot of information there. One of the things it does require, go ahead, Brett, I think the next slide. Yes, is written permission must be done for human sexuality and abstinence education. We in Northeast already do that. The piece that they added to it is it has to be 14 days before instruction that the parent receives the permission slip. Again, we've already done that because we typically run our parent previews a month to 3 weeks ahead, and we want to make sure parents have that information so it's on the parent permission. And then human sexuality and abstinence education curriculum materials. They made a lot of changes as to what's available. It is actually all available to parents through the public domain or copyrighted curriculum. We have put up on our through Skyward parent portal, parents can log in and there is a section for them to access all the curriculum. It also lets you know if there's something we couldn't put on the webpage, there's a link on how to be able to get access to it, or it tells you can go to a campus if you need to. And then the next thing also still is if for some reason a school district has a curriculum where parents would want to purchase, we have to provide them the information on how to purchase that curriculum. If we were to go get into a new agreement where we were purchasing new agreement from this point forward, we would have to make sure that we include a clause in that agreement that parents would be able to purchase at the price the school district is purchasing at. And then curriculum materials must be, and this is our human sexuality and abstinence education curriculum materials, they have to be based on SHAC advice before the board adopts. They have to be suitable for grade levels and subjects, and then reviewed by academic experts. And then go back one quick thing, just so that everybody knows, they went back and they also defined what is considered human sexuality and abstinence education. So all of those terms, anything that falls under those terms now is considered human sexuality and abstinence education. Okay. And then legislative compliance, this is just things that we are going to have to update and make sure that we are in compliance. When the legal pushes down from the state, I think we're thinking we're supposed to get that legal update like October-ish. We will have to update local and administrative regulations, district guidelines, possibly. The websites we are already working on updating, but they would have to be updated on any legal stuff that we might need. And then our syllabi, we went back and updated those at the beginning of the school year so that when parents received information, they received the updated information. And then textbook adoptions. So textbook adoptions, we have a process that we will be following in our school district. I will be coming to our committee chairs and sharing with our committees, but SHAC members will have the opportunity to sit in on those committees to review textbooks. You do not have to do that, but I will say certain committees will be highly recommended that they be involved and looking at those, especially our classroom health and our fitness and physical activity committee. And then obviously we have to purchase those by a certain date. Points for consideration. The district process will include the SHAC input from the very beginning, but then we must also take our final recommendation to the SHAC for approval. Once the SHAC makes their final recommendation and it's approved, all the textbooks, then it goes to the board for approval as well. Curriculum alignment for PE and health, Brandon and Katie have already kind of started kicking that off. That's why I wanted to make sure you guys knew who they were. You can't utilize the TEKS for this year because we're still under the old TEKS, but the new TEKS will kick off in August 22-23. We are starting to look at curriculum and address it, so that way when we have the new textbooks, we can utilize them to fit into our curriculum as well. I do want to make sure everybody is aware, we do have a change at high school. Where high school used to be 5 PE classes, it is now 5 semester courses. It is now 3 year-long courses. And so the TEKS look very different. The graduation requirement did not change. Students still have to have 1 credit of PE to graduate. However, they could just take 1 course and they're going to meet it, when in the past they may have taken 2. And then health pre-K through 12, while the TEKS have changed, the actual courses and the type of courses did not. And then SHI recommendations for those of you, School Health Index, which is developed by the Centers for Disease Control. That is a evaluation measure that we use for SHAC. It is in our local and our regs that we utilize that. Sharon Glosson actually sits, her department really is the ones, and Sharon, you want to raise your hand? She's our executive director for school nutrition. She is the one that actually sits over the FFA. See, I told you we would just throw these letters out at you. FFA, which is our wellness policy. And she's the one that really oversees that, and I thank her every day for doing that. But we share, because of the SHAC and her policy, we share the SHI recommendations. And so what happens is the SHI has been very convoluted in the past, and that's the best way I could say it. It's online at the CDC. Sharon and all of us would get these huge packets of information. We would give them to the campuses. The campuses would spend a lot of time filling out these packets. Then they would send the packet back to Sharon's office. Then Sharon's secretary would take the packet and re-input all of their information into a spreadsheet. And then we would have to aggregate the information from there. And then we would pass it on to the SHAC. And then you would go through and you would look at where we're scoring low in our SHI based off your committee's areas, and then we would make recommendations off of it. So that's a pretty long process. In today's technology, that seems like we should be able to do better than that. So Alex Vardell is in the room somewhere. There he is. And he is our research, I'm totally going to mess up. It's Director of Research and Resources or something to that effect. I was close enough, right? Just say yes. He is the person that oversees Qualtrics in our school district. And I went to him, and bless his heart, he sees me coming. I think he wants to run the other direction. But I went to him and asked him if it was possible. And he and his group took on a huge task of putting the SHI into Qualtrics for us. It allowed us to go through and mark which things really are more appropriate for campuses, which things are really department, district level stuff. We also were able to NEISD, SHI, and SPOT. We didn't change the terminology, but what we might have done is if we use, I'm going to give a great example. The SHI will say wellness committee. Well, in a lot of our campuses, they use their CIC teams or their campus improvement teams. Well, we put that language in there, like in parentheses, so that when they're reading the question, the campus will see what's pertinent and what's appropriate for their particular campus. We also have it set up so that when they put their answers in there, now it goes live. I mean, it's there. Nobody has to re-input. Nobody has to redo anything. And then you, as SHAC members, we have gone and assigned the different questions to your committees. And when you go to look at your new dashboard for your committee, you will see all the information updated for that. The other thing that's really cool about it is in the past, they only had a paper copy at the campus of their questions, of their answers. Well, now campuses will have access to their archived data from this point forward as well. So we're really excited about the opportunities that this is going to bring. And if y'all don't mind, for Sharon and I, we would like to do a little round of applause for Alex because this is huge. I can't, especially, I think Sharon's secretary would be the one that...
Yeah, she retired, so...
Yeah, she's done, but it's a big deal. I mean, like, it was a lot of work, and I think it's a really cool thing that we're going to be able to have something that's much more interactive. It's going to be more efficient and more effective at collecting our data. And then there is no such thing as a self-made man. You will reach your goals only with the help of others. And that is what SHAC is. You guys, we cannot in the school district do what we do without you. And so every day we are beyond grateful that you are willing to serve. I know some of our district department people don't have choices, but we appreciate all the parents that are willing to step up and be here and be part of this. We just honestly cannot imagine taking on this next year without such an amazing SHAC. So thank you. Does anybody have any questions about that extremely intense presentation? Okay.
Well, we're drawing to the close of our meeting. We were going to have a presentation by Shannon Groen, who's one of our board members, but I don't see her here yet today. Oh, she's right in front of me. No, that's not Shannon.
Belinda.
But Belinda,
Text me and say she was on her way.
she is on her way. Okay, so probably what I'll do is I'll try to draw this out as long as I can with the committee thing, and then there you go, which I can do. I'm a pastor, so Lord knows I can talk. But no, as we talk about our committees, as you guys heard earlier, we're going to alternate our meetings. So we will meet in person as a SHAC every other month. And then the off months, we will meet as committee, and those will be by Zoom unless in person. So each of you should be getting your assignments, or you're making your selections of the committee that you want to be a part of. We talked about those 5 committees earlier in our meeting today. And so Kelly and Rachel and I will be reaching out to all of the committee chairs as a part of that to find out when you'll be meeting and helping make arrangements for all of those meetings as we go throughout the year. To the new members, it's really the committees where you will do the majority of your work. And we really do invite you to speak up, to let your voice be heard, let your thoughts be known, really speak into those committees, because we talk about the SHIs. As they come in, your committees will make recommendations of how the school district can move forward in improving the results of those, of the SHI. And so I've been a part of the Health and Sex Education Committee for several years. So much fun to be a part of that one. And so we've done a lot of work over the last several years as we've looked at the curriculum, as well as all the other committees have as well. Much like the SHAC, those committees are made up of both of staff members here with NEISD, as well as parents that are volunteers as a part of the SHAC. And each one of those has both a staff member and a parent volunteer that co-chair those committees. So that's what those will look like. So every other month, you guys will meet as a committee to do that work and then bring that back into the SHAC meetings when we are all collectively together each month. And as you heard from Rachel, there's a lot of work that's got to be done over the course of this next year, from pre-K all the way through 12th grade. You look like you want to say something.
I do. And I'm not trying to drag it out, but for committees, committee chairs, I will be coming back to you with the textbook process and what that's going to look like exactly, so everybody has an understanding. We are hoping to be able to kind of utilize Google, and the textbook companies have made links live available on the internet, so a lot of it will be done outside of SHAC time. So all of our teachers have to have the opportunity to review the curriculum. And so that will be a process that we are kind of getting ironed out. And then part of the reason we're kind of waiting too is we don't have which resources we need to review yet. There aren't as many resources as you might think when you look at other curriculum areas that tend to have quite a few textbooks that need to be reviewed. We actually have some areas that don't have any textbooks. So it will look kind of different. And I see Ms. Grona is coming in, so I'm going to let her, I know she's like, these people are in my place.
It's fine.
We have your chairs.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Sit here because I always want to sit here in the corner.
Do you want to, you can jump in because I'm done. Is your mic?
I was running. I don't need a mic, do I?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. I just, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Shannon Groen. I'm the board president. And I want to thank you all for serving on SHAC. This is a very important committee for the board. And so I really appreciate the time that you take to come to these meetings and participate in those individual committees and do the work that you do. So I just wanted to, I'm sorry, I'm very late. I was rushing from another thing. But again, just want to thank you for participating. And I mean, if you ever have questions of me, please feel free to send me an email. I want you all to know that I'm do. And so I welcome your comments, concerns, questions for, anything. So if there's anything I can do to help you, please reach out and let me know. But again, thank you for what you're doing. And do I have a lunch?
Do what? Yes, it's back in your room. She's hungry, obviously. We're very grateful to have such an amazing board that we get to work under every single day in Northeast ISD. So with that, I'm turning it back over to the two chairs.
Yeah, I would just say this, and I'll just echo this, and I don't know that Shannon can hear me, but I can tell you as a parent and volunteer, and being a part of SHAC for so many years, and those of you that have been here will know this, you will regularly see the board members at our SHAC meeting from the top all the way down. And so they are actively a part of it, as well as the superintendent and their offices as well. And so when we say this truly is a cooperation of all levels of the education system here at NEISD, it is very true, and we see it actively. So thank you to Shannon and to our board and to our superintendents and to the entire executive offices, because they truly do value this and truly do listen. It's a great thing. So.
Well, thanks, Sean. Well, with that, this meeting is adjourned at 1:06. Thank you for coming, and we look forward to seeing you at the next SHAC meeting in November.
Thank you, everyone. If you did not sign in when you came in, if you want to make sure that you have signed in, and we hope you have safe travels. We'll see you soon.